We'll begin with the water versus glycerin demo. Set 2 jars out on a table for students to see, one with water, one with glycerin. Have students make a hypothesis about the contents of the jars. Once students have a hypothesis, you can gently swirl both jars. The water should shake and swirl as expected, but the glycerin shouldn't quite slosh around as much and should be thicker or stickier in appearance. Ask students why they think this is and what's in the jars. Students should realize that the glycerin is much thicker, stickier, and doesn't flow quite as well, and we call this viscosity. Once you've defined these terms for students, you can move on to the activity. Today we'll be measuring the viscosity of 5 different household fluids. We have shampoo, honey, olive oil, pancake syrup, and corn syrup. Start by giving 1 tube to each group. Note that each tube has 2 black lines and a steel marble in it. Ask students how we might measure the viscosity of these fluids. You can also let students know that they'll be given a timer and a magnet to manipulate the steel marble. Students should eventually decide that a good proxy for viscosity of a fluid is the velocity of the marble through that fluid, and that we can measure the distance the marble falls as well as time how long it takes. Now students can be given their full set of tubes and we can begin measurements. We'll be measuring the time it takes between the 2 black lines, and we can use the magnet to do one of 2 things. Pull to the top black line and release, calculating the time it takes, or we can flip the tube over, hold the marble in place with a magnet, and then release from there, only timing between the 2 black lines. What we should not be doing is flipping the tube over and measuring that time, for 2 reasons. We're not timing between the 2 black lines, and also there's a large air bubble the marble travels through which can skew results. To keep students on task, we can use student roles. The first role is the tester. They keep track of the marble and use the magnet to manipulate. The timekeeper is in charge of the timer. The data recorder records the times. And then the data cruncher will perform the averages on the 3 times. The experiment manager keeps everyone on task and chooses which fluid's up next. The worksheet can be used to track all this data. First, the students will make a hypothesis about the viscosities of these 5 fluids before beginning. Then they'll take their measurements each 3 times for all 5 fluids and then calculate the average of the 3 different times. If we flip the sheet over, we can see that there's a table that's meant to record the rankings of the 5 fluids. And then following this, there's a few questions to test the students' understanding. This is the viscosity module.